Today I'm going to be going through rendering intent and what it is and how we can use it to improve our prints we make from our printer. Basically, rendering intent is how your printer renders colour, or how your computer and printer render the colour together so they can make the best possible print they can. Now, these are settings, you may have seen them within the print module of Photoshop and in the print module of Lightroom as well. Now, I will show you where they are in a minute, after I've just gone through a little bit of theory first. So, what we have here is diagrams of colour gamuts. Now, we work for print in Adobe RGB 1998 colour space. And as you can see, it's quite a big colour space. Not as big as Pro Photo over here, but still quite a big colour space. Now, our printer is in CMYK colour space, and as you can see, it's a little bit smaller and a little bit more stretched out. So what we've got to do is fit all this colour data in the Adobe RGB 1998 colour space into the CMYK printer colour space. Now, as you can see here, what it does is it's a lot smaller colour space, and then we get all this out of gamut mismatch, which will basically have to be put into the CMYK working space for us to be able to get a decent print. And it does this by rendering intent. There's two types of rendering intent that we need to be concerned with as photographers. One is perceptual and one is relative. Perceptual, it will compress the colours into that CMYK working space, or the out of gamut colour, should I say, into the CMYK working space, which your printer will be able to print. Now, it does this, it pushes everything in, then everything else in turn will change very slightly because it's like a ripple effect. It does smooth everything out, as it says here, and it just creates a nice look. I think 80% of the time I print in perceptual because I want big, bold colour. Now, relative, on the other hand, will take the out of gamut colour and it will map it to the closest colour it can find. So you get a lot more natural look, and you get a lot more, I want to say, lifelike look as well. Relative is really good for, say, nature photography or wildlife photography, where you want the feathers of a bird to be actually true colour of what you have to do, of what you need. So it's very good for that kind of thing as well. But your colour editing has to be bang on with it, I have to say. Now, the other good thing about relative is, as it's mapping the colours, it's not creating a ripple effect through the rest of the gamut of colour. So the colours will stay the same. All the other colours don't shift when it does this. So that's a little bit on colour gamut and what we use it for. Let me take you into Photoshop and I'll show you how we set these within the software. Okay, so now we're in Photoshop. So here's the picture we're going to be printing. And what we need to do is go to File and Print. And once it's loaded up, what I'm going to do is I just want to position this in the page. So I'm just going to put it to scale to fit media. And then I'm just going to very quickly just position it in the middle of the page like so. So we go into our print settings, and I'm going to be printing this on platinum etching, one of our papers. So I'm going to set it to Epson archival matte. I'm also working on a P600. Now what I need to do is set our profile. So we're on Photoshop Manager's Colors, and in here I am going to select platinum etching for the P600, which is that one there, with the latest date. Now the next thing we have is selected normal printing, and then we have rendering intent. Now in here we have 4 rendering intents. But like I said, the only 2 we need to worry about as photographers is perceptual and relative colorimetric. So I'm going to print a picture out on both of these, and then we're just going to compare and see which is a better image. Also, black point compensation. This will hold the black point for you. It's not so vital when relative is selected, because that doesn't move any colours for you. It doesn't create that ripple effect I talked about. Whereas perceptual, if you don't have it ticked, your black point will shift as well. We want to hold those blacks in the picture. So we're all set up. So all I need to do is just print one of these on perceptual and print one of them on relative. Now, for the Lightroom users amongst you, it is pretty much the same thing. So let me go into Lightroom. Now I've already laid this one up on a sheet of A3. Now, if we go into the print module like we have here, as you can see, we've got all our margins and cell size and things like that already set. But what we're interested in is if we go right down to the bottom and color management here, we've got platinum etching already selected as our profile. And then we've got perceptual and relative as just click buttons as our intent here. So a little bit more user friendly for photographers in Lightroom, as I think kind of everything is for photographers, that is. So we can either select perceptual or relative. So let's have a look at the prints. Okay, so our prints have now come out the printer, and now we just need to compare. So I have this one here that is printed on perceptual, then I have this one here which is printed on relative. Now it may be hard to see on camera, so I'll put these up on screen, first individually and then both together so you can see the difference. And I've tried to photograph them the best I can. So now what I immediately notice is the relative over this side here does have a little bit more detail in the heads of these plants here, but I do prefer the background a little bit more on the perceptual. So I'm kind of torn, and this brings me to my big point with rendering intent. It comes down to personal preference. There's no right or wrong answer for this. The best thing I say for people to do is print out two images like I've done here, perhaps not on A3 like I've done, perhaps just on a half an A4, so an A5, two A5s, and just print the same image and just see which you prefer, because you may just prefer one over the other, but it will change from image to image as well. In this case, personally, it is so close in this image, I would probably go for relative, just because it's got a little bit more detail in there. However, if I hadn't seen the relative, I'd be more than happy with the perceptual intent used. So I hope that's helped a little bit, and please, if you have any questions about rendering intent or anything else, please either drop us an email or always at the end of the phone. But I hope you've enjoyed that, and please have a look at my other tutorials on printing through Lightroom and printing through Photoshop. Thanks very much. Goodbye.